build up to sugar work as well. So if you take the caramel to a different temperature, and we'll talk about temperatures, you're going to be able to start doing sugar work. The best way to start a caramel, or one way to start a caramel, is to mix the sugar and water in a bowl first. This is going to help you prevent something called crystallization. And then you're going to just put it into a pot and start boiling it. I'm going to take this off briefly. So you're going to have a pot. You're going to have your sugar and H2O. You're going to just boil. If you have mixed it first in a bowl, the sugar and water, and then you pour into the pot before you start boiling, you're going to prevent something happening called crystallization. Now, you don't necessarily need to do this, but when you're starting sauces, or you're doing a large amount of sauce, you may want to do that to help prevent crystallization. Crystallization is going to be sugar sediment that collects on the sides of the pot or the pan. And then little sugar beads, impediments, little rocks of sugar form, and your sauce won't be smooth. So that is like your basic caramel sauce. And it's used on plating, you know. But I would say that most dessert presentations, especially these days, use the addition of cream, heavy cream, which is manufactured. It's what we get at work, and it's what you get in the restaurant business. So it won't. It's very good for whipping. It has a high fat content, and it's very good for sauces because it won't break. So a heavy cream, and you want to boil it up. You want to boil it up because it's going to incorporate better. So you put your cream over here. You boil. And once your caramel sauce has reached sort of an amber color, you want to whisk in some cream, some hot cream. This thing won't clean that well, guys, but hot cream, because it's going to incorporate a lot better. So briefly, our next sauce is going to be a chocolate sauce. I don't know how I wrote it on the board, but chocolate sauce. Again, you can make many different kinds of chocolate sauce, but your primary sauce is actually going to be, and in your textbooks, as what? Chocolate plus cream. Which, those of you who have also been in class or have an interest in pastry work, what is this also called? It's called a ganache. So pastry, true pastry work, one thing about it is it's all about texture and consistency. Texture. From a sauce to a pastry cream to a lemon curd to pâte sucrée, it's texture. So it could have very few ingredients, but it's really important about how they're mixed together. So anyway, you can make a quick chocolate sauce, and they are these days for sure, YouTube, wherever, by melting your chocolate and boiling up the cream, whisking it in. That is also, again, a ganache. It's going to be, in general, a thicker chocolate sauce. So for plating, you would often want to use maybe like a cocoa powder. Cocoa powder, a nice dark cocoa powder, and H2O to thin it out. Some of them have a corn syrup, which is a liquid sugar, of course. And you could even have a butter. A little bit of butter. I mean, so anyway, these all become kind of technically your small sauces in chocolate. But your primary ingredients are chocolate and cream. So that's your chocolate sauce. Again, you can make a small sauce. You could add liqueur, which is used a lot in pastry work. Creme anglaise. Moving right along. Creme anglaise, which is also what? People who already went through pastry. It is also a custard. It's also a custard. We might not think about it as a custard, but it is. Because what does it contain? It has yolks, so egg, which is a custard. It has a dairy, which is milk or half and half. I kind of tend to like to use half and half, which is a mixture of, which is 1 part cream to 1 part milk. And it has sugar. White sugar generally, what white sugar is going to be in the regular recipe, it's going to melt better. You could use brown sugar. Brown sugar is only white sugar, which we covered in nutrition the other day. Brown sugar is only white sugar with the addition of molasses. So a lot of people think it's healthier, but actually it's not. So you're going to, your yolks plus your sugar, mix in a bowl. Mix really nicely. Mix really well. Whisk. Use a whisk. It's going to incorporate it really nicely. And then over here in the pot, have your dairy, your milk. You could use. You can't really. It's not going to have the same effect to use an alternative milk, like a soy milk or an almond milk, but. Related discussion, but also separate. I mean, there are like vegan sauces that they're calling a vanilla sauce or a cream sauce or a creme anglaise, and they're sometimes using a tofu or an almond milk and blending it up. So there's different mock sauces for sure. But anyway, right now we're just talking about the classics, and then the classic sauce for your learning is creme anglaise. So it's a mixture of yolks and sugar. You're beating up really well. Your dairy, your milk plus cream. You're going to boil up. I like to boil it up because then you know it's hot enough. But then turn it back down to just to a scalding point. But if you boil it up, I mean, that's the way I was trained. You're going to know it really reached the scalding point. Then turn it down really low. Take a ladle. And ladle a little bit of hot boiling cream into your egg yolks and sugar. You don't want to add a ton of it. So if you're doing a quart of sauce, maybe only do 2 to 3 ounces of hot liquid into the yolks. That is what? That is a tempering, which we all learned. The word, culinary word, but that's tempering. I'm sure it's hard to see this stuff. Sorry, guys. Thanks again. All the patience with this experiment in Corona times of teaching. Thank you guys all for your patience. So anyway, tempering is to get 2 mixtures together, 2 mixtures to marry, as they say, that wouldn't necessarily get along. So a cold mixture and a hot mixture. And anyway, so you're ladling a little bit of that hot mixture into the yolks to get the yolks used to going back into the milk. Because if you were to pour all the yolks in there, what would happen? They would probably curdle. They would probably scramble. So but if you add too much hot liquid into the yolks, it's going to get it really, really thin and liquefied. And then you're going to have to get this liquid now colder temperature back into the pot, and and it will be colder to try to heat up and thicken. So this is your most complicated sauce really out of them all. And then you're going to cook it slowly until nappe stage. nappe stage, which is basically coating the back of a spoon. I also, in my class, I like to show students to test it on a plate as a dessert sauce, and just you can run your finger through it and leave a track, and you know that it's thick enough. I should have brought a plate out, but anyway, we often, a classical saucing method with a creme anglaise is to put it right in the center of the plate, a small ladle full, you don't want a lot, and twirl it around the plate, spin it around, and it's going to coat the bottom of the plate. Also, you want to strain the sauce so that you don't get something called albumin, which is the little egg pieces from this. So this is, again, a custard sauce. We covered frozen desserts last week. So this is all connected, very connected, and you guys should be thinking of it like that. This could also become an ice cream base. But again, an ice cream base cannot become a creme anglaise. Not technically, it shouldn't. It's too thin. So it won't coat the back of the plate. Coulis. This is a fruit puree. And often, at least, it could be lightly thickened with a starch. But again, actually, I'm getting ahead. Your traditional coulis is simply fresh fruit. Very often, most primarily berries. I'm talking about the classics right here, which is what probably like your very most classic, especially when I was training, which is a long time ago now, but was raspberry coulis. Because raspberry, honestly, for a lot of pastry sauces or pastry plating and dishes goes with everything. Raspberry pairs really great with chocolate. Raspberry is wonderful with an almond tart, a frangipane tart, a lemon tart. So raspberry is sort of like a go-to thing for pastry. It doesn't mean that you're limited at all to that, but it's going to work really well. Blueberries don't work as well because of the skin, but I'm also talking about when we made everything from scratch. And these days, a lot of things are bought in. So at this point, it's good for you guys to have this knowledge, and just so that you can discuss it and talk about it and bring those skills to a job. Because quite frankly, you're probably preparing a lot of this with pre-made products these days. But it's still very good to know, and it's your trade. You want to know it so that you can discuss it. Your berries, you could put right in a blender. It depends, if you want to make a very fresh coulis, you could put them right in a blender with a sugar syrup and a little pop of lemon and blend it up. Just even, back in the day, we would even do macerated. To macerate, but to macerate fruit is to just use a fork and smash it up with sugar, and it's going to almost like bruise the berries and bring out the sugar and the flavor. So, but back to a coulis, you would blend it up with a sugar syrup. You could also boil it up. You can make peach coulis. You can make coulis from anything. It's a fruit puree. But again, the classics are raspberry, strawberry. I'd say when things started to change like 15, 20 years ago, now you see on menus, you might see a broccolini coulis. You might see these words used in savory terminology. So again, it's important to learn it all so that you can think about it. And talk about it. And so again, even if you don't want to do pastry, it's good to know, because you might see coulis on the menu. I've seen red pepper coulis. In fact, I see that often, red pepper coulis, and I've done it. And with ravioli, with pastas, anything, bruschetta, sun-dried tomato coulis. So that's fusion, really, even with terminology. That's a fusion style of our trade of